Hi, and welcome to Changemakers with Eleanor, the podcast where we dive into the lives and lessons of those who are making a difference. I'm your host, Eleanor Baggaley, and in each episode we bring you inspiring stories from leaders, coaches, and people who are not just dreaming of change, but making it happen. Whether they're penning their first book, working in their community, or leading a revolution in their industry, you'll get a first-hand look at how they're shaping the world. If you're looking to leave a mark or simply love a good story about modern-day heroes, you've come to the right place. Here, we're all about changing the world, whether that's one person's world or the world in general. So grab your notebook or just a comfortable seat and let's explore these fascinating journeys together. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to ensure you never miss an episode. Let's go change the world together. Hi. So in this week's episode, I don't actually have a guest. My guest is me. So I thought I would jump on and share a little bit about why I created the Changemakers podcast and how I consider myself to be a changemaker. Although that is a little bit painful to say, and I will explain a little bit more as we get to that. So I always ask my guests to do a little bit of an intro. So who am I? What am I doing? Why is this podcast? Well, I am Eleanor Baggaley, as I'm sure you are aware by now, and I decided to create the Changemaker podcast because all of the people who I work with in my writing and publishing work are all changemakers. They are all trying to make a difference in the world, one way, shape or other. And I just wanted a way to share what they do and what other amazing people in the country or around the world, hopefully, are doing to help others in all of the various ways that they do. Why am I a changemaker? Why did the name Changemakers? I actually felt really uncomfortable with coming up with the name Changemakers. So I knew I wanted to create a podcast to help other people. And in my head, I'd wanted a podcast to inspire, to educate, to raise awareness around diversity and inclusion. Also to potentially show my love of maths as well. So my background is in teaching. I was a maths teacher. I then wrote children's books to kind of help inspire children in different ways. Just everything I do, I discovered that it was all about making a difference in people's lives. So that was where the name came from, to have changemakers. And a lot of my guests do feel a little bit uncomfortable in giving themselves the name Changemaker, and it's because they don't see, just like me, that what they are doing is anything unique or special. They just do it because it feels right. And I think I have had to get over that, and I think a few of my guests have had to get over that in the time as well. So why am I a changemaker? And it still does pain. I say I've got over it. I haven't entirely got over it. Why am I a changemaker? I started probably, well, actually, if I think back, even when I was probably about 7 or 8 years old, I wanted to be a doctor. And I remember at school someone telling me, "Oh, you mean a nurse?" And I was like, "No, I want to be a doctor." So this would have been probably late 80s. Yeah, it would have been late 80s, thinking back to kind of where I was in school. And at that time, the other people around me had made an assumption that because I was a girl, I was going to be a nurse, not a doctor. And I was adamant, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a doctor. It's not really a spoiler here, but I didn't become a doctor. I guess I even back then, I wanted to be doing something that helped people, but also I wanted to challenge stereotypes, which is quite amazing when I think back to kind of, I was doing it without even realising at that point, and possibly with a little bit of help from my mum and the role that she had in an HR environment. And then even when I became a teenager, my younger sister was revising for her maths, although she was a few years younger than me. I'm trying to think what it was she was doing, but I know she was doing some maths work anyway, and a friend of hers was also doing some, and they needed some help with some parts of it. Now, I loved maths. Maths was definitely kind of the subject that would get me up in the morning. And I know some people listening might be thinking, oh my God, what is wrong with you? But it still is. I do love maths even now. So I helped my sister and her friend with some of the maths work that they were doing as a teenager. And it was just second nature to me to do that. I went on to study maths at university, and I would always be involved in like the student days there to go and help other people to think if they were considering going to Newcastle University. I just was involved with everything there, and I did some of the kind of student into schools placement. So I went into schools to see how I could help other young people while I was at university. That kind of led on to me becoming a teacher. I knew at that stage that I wanted to go and help other people develop a love for maths, or even people who had that love to hang on to it, because it's not unusual for kids along the way to lose that love of maths. They might love it in primary school, gets to secondary school and things do become a little bit harder. And I wanted to share my love of maths and help other people to see how they can enjoy it as well. While I was teaching, it was quite difficult. There were a lot of challenges. There were a lot of difficulties along the way. Not to do with teaching, but I had a really bad car accident. We'd moved up to Scotland. I was still teaching in Northumberland, and I had a really bad car accident one morning, and I was really badly injured and couldn't drive. Probably shouldn't have driven, and probably shouldn't have gone back to work for a significant period of time. But I was back to work within 2 months, probably just under, because I felt really bad for the young people that I had basically abandoned while I was recovering from my car accident. And I was left with kind of really bad PTSD. I'd aquaplaned on the motorway, and I was left with really bad PTSD from that. Even now, when we're talking 11 years later, it still triggers me if the rain is really bad, which isn't great when you live in England, but we are where we are. But I was determined. I got back in the car, and I remember a therapist said to me at the time, well, why have you got back in the car? And it was like, well, I have to, because people are depending on me. And they actually said to me, you don't have to. It was a choice that you made to get back in the car and drive again down the line. But actually the drive to do that was because I felt that need. I had that passion to help other people and to make a difference in their lives. So while I was teaching, well, I sadly lost a student as well to a brain tumour while I was in Northumberland teaching, and that was really, really difficult. So that really did hit me hard, and that made me really question where I was in my life. I'd been teaching for 7 years, I think, at that point, 7 or 8 years at that point, and I just started looking at how short life can be, and I wanted to make sure that I could really make a difference in more people's lives, more children's lives. And around about that same time, between kind of when I'd had the car accident and when the student died, I joined a network marketing company, and I am still with this network marketing company, and the reason I joined this particular one, UW, is because they are about helping people. I'm not when I go and speak to people about it, I'm not trying to sell anything to them. I joined because I wanted to help people with saving money with that aspect of their lives. But as a side product of that, I was introduced to personal development, and that, although I'd kind of got over the car accident side of things on my own, a lot of that mindset stuff just came out through the personal development that I then accessed, and I thought it was really interesting, the connection with there. And I wanted to try and use that personal development learnings and experience with young people, because I was always coming across young people who were saying, well, why am I doing this? Why, especially with maths? And I'm sure you've probably said it as well. But why do I need to learn this? Where am I ever going to use this in my life? What's the point? So, and a lot of young people were really confused about where they were wanting to go in their lives as well. So on the back of that, with my kind of education experience, with my personal development experiences, with my own personal journey, I started to develop some work, and I worked with some of the teenagers that I was teaching to look at kind of goal setting and helping them plan for their futures. And that was where then, when this student who sadly passed away, it really did make me question that actually we can plan all we want for our future, but we don't know how long in that future we're going to have. And I decided I really did need to make a difference. So I stepped out of the classroom and I did more education consultancy work. So I was involved in a Department for Education project where we were going and working with schools whose maths departments might have been struggling a little bit to help them give a better offer for their children. And I was also involved with maths hubs to try and develop different programs, different things, different ways of thinking, different experiences to give to the children about their maths education. So it was still going back to kind of why I went into teaching, to try and help instill that love of maths within children. But I was able to reach more children by reaching the teachers first and then having that ripple effect. And that was really important to me to be able to do that. While I was doing that, I ended up writing some children's books, all around personal development, so picture books. So I started with Maya the Unicorn and Oscar the Dragon. So my Maya and my Oscar were quite young at the time. I think they were probably about 3 and 6-ish, maybe a little bit more. I've lost track of time now. And those books were written to encourage self-belief and confidence in children. So it had a story of a unicorn in Maya the Unicorn, story of a dragon in Oscar the Dragon, who were going through a journey of self-discovery and resulted in them believing in themselves. And it has little exercises at the back. Ironically, I lacked the self-confidence to tell people that me, a numbers person, had written some books and had become a word person. But they did eventually, kind of slowly but surely, I kind of got word out there, and I got some really lovely feedback, and actually a lot of lovely feedback from adults and parents who said they were reading the stories with their children and it was really making a difference to them and how they were thinking about themselves. And if I'm being perfectly honest, it helped me too, because by revisiting that story, I realised that I needed to have that self-belief and that confidence in myself to share the books and showcase the books. And actually, it was really selfish of me if I wasn't going to use them to help other people as I'd intended to write them. So I started to do those, and then as I was putting them out to publish, I was pregnant with my third child, Ava, and I knew I needed to write a book named after Ava, but I had no idea what I was wanting to write that book about. And she answered my questions for me. So we had a postnatal diagnosis of Down syndrome with Ava, and as soon as I heard the diagnosis, I was like, right, this is not going to define who she is, what she does, or anything. She is going to be her own person. She is going to go and do whatever she wants, and she's going to change the world. And she gave me the answer for the book that I was going to write for her. So Ava the Mermaid was born from Ava's birth, and that is a story about kindness and inclusion. And after she was born, I quickly got involved in one of the national Down syndrome charities, Positive About Down syndrome. And I was helping kind of do bits and pieces with their social media, because I wanted to help other people to see that a diagnosis of Down syndrome isn't a negative thing, that there are so many positives. And Ava was only a couple of months old at this point, and she had a hole in her heart and had to go through open heart surgery, but I could still see the positives, and I still wanted to help other people to see that. So they actually used some of my books to go into their nursery packs to help raise awareness about Down syndrome, and our local Down syndrome charity, Down Syndrome North East, have used the books as well to go in their new baby packs for when babies are given a diagnosis of Down syndrome, whether it's prenatal or postnatal. They get given one of our boxes with kind of just different bits and pieces for the babies, some information and a storybook, to kind of help just process the information, I guess. But yeah, that was where the books went. And then I went on to write Becoming the Goat, which, when I was asking for feedback on the cover for Becoming the Goat in a book group that I'm in, someone said, "Oh, I don't like it. It looks like a mixture of a business book and a children's book." And I was like, perfect. That's exactly what it is. It's a personal development book for teenagers. So that was kind of the first kind of real booky book that I wrote for teenagers to help with the work that I'd been doing kind of way back when with the teenagers in school, with a focus on what is it they're wanting to achieve in their lives and why is it important to understand that and kind of progress with that. And then kind of, I feel like there's a lot of and thens as I go through my life. But ultimately, I just wanted to show that everything that I do is because I have this passion and desire and mission. My mission is to change the world. I quite often say that's going to be, I'm changing the world one book at a time, but actually I'm changing the world one action at a time. So currently I am a trustee for 3 different charities. So one of them is Down Syndrome Northeast. I decided to join, or I was invited to join them on their trustee board a few years ago now. And I do really enjoy kind of doing the work that I do there, putting activities on for young people with Down syndrome and their families. It's just a really nice environment to get to know each other, and we've made so many kind of really good friends for life within that community as well. Back in 2021, I was a founding member of Gateshead West Uniform Scheme, and Emma, whose idea it was, will absolutely be a guest one day on the podcast to find out a little bit more about kind of why she felt that it was important to set that charity up. And we have absolutely grown. So we started in the cupboard in a musty old building back in 2021, and now we've got kind of multiple rooms where we help hundreds of families every single month with recycling uniform. And again, it's all about kind of, especially with the cost of living crisis, there's so many families that cannot afford uniform. We've worked with a refugee charity just this last week who are putting uniform packages together for 70 odd refugee children who otherwise wouldn't have uniform to access school. And it's heartbreaking, some of the stories that we hear, but it's really heartwarming, the work that we do and how many people actually want to kind of support everything that we do with that. And I'm also a trustee for Scouts and a Beaver leader within that. So my youngest little girl, Ava, who I've talked about, is a Beaver there. So that's all good fun as well. And again, it's about kind of providing the opportunities for those children there. And I'm also working with an organisation or a charity up in Northumberland called Leading Link. And again, it's kind of just looking at the opportunities for young people in the region. And that's all alongside the work that I do with helping people to write and publish their books. And someone had asked if I was going to niche down with the writing and publishing, because obviously my background had been children's books, but I do help other people with non-fiction or memoirs and things like that. And I found that really difficult because I was like, well, I don't want to just do children's books, but equally I don't want to just do memoirs and I don't just want to do non-fiction. And when I looked at the clients who I work with, as I've said kind of earlier on in the podcast, every single one of them is trying to make a difference. So there's been people who are sharing their journey through bankruptcy after running a business and the mental health implications within that and what it means for them and their family. I've had people who have had kind of illnesses, so juvenile idiopathic arthritis, I think I've got all the letters within there, their journey through that and how they're now helping other people through writing a book, through other work that they are doing. I've had children's authors who are writing books about mindfulness because there's quite a change in how children of all ages are coping post-COVID. So writing children's books around mindfulness to just help children kind of center themselves, refine themselves, find calm in themselves. Another children's author, based on her own experience of sexual abuse as a child, which isn't your typical children's book, but it's really important to help other children realise that they're not alone and that there's a voice and that there's ways that they can get help with kind of those important topics. So I realised that actually my niche was changemakers. My niche within the book writing world is all about helping those people get their message out so that they can continue to help other people. And I do think that is really, really important. So I've totally just not even gone through the questions that I would normally ask my my guests that come on. But I guess I have gone through lots of journeys of self-discovery through all of the different aspects where I have been helping other people. And it does really make me, I do just want to change the world in everything that I do. And whether that is the world for one person or whether it's on a much wider playing field, it doesn't matter. If you can make the difference in one person's life, job done. And I can hand on heart say that I know that I have done that for multiple people. What keeps me motivated? Just the helping people. I just love it. I just absolutely love every single thing that I do. If there's something that I don't like doing, I find someone else to do it, or I just don't do it. So I am just totally motivated because I have found my love and passion, and it just is enough to get me up in the morning to kind of keep helping other people. If you are interested in writing a book with me, then, or even looking at where my books are or looking at my clients' books, you can find those on eleanorbaggaley.com. And if you're interested in any of the charity work that I do, then by all means feel free to drop me a message through on LinkedIn. You'll find me on there, or equally you've got the contact page on my website and you can ask me about any of the charities if you're interested in the work there. And a fun fact about myself, I feel like I have loads of these and then I always forget what fun facts there might be. The only one that's coming to mind, and I'm sure it's a really rubbish fun fact at the moment, is so when I was teaching in the last school that I was teaching in, we used to do charity day and we would dress up, and the maths department was always the most fun department in the school, and we had some really, really fun costumes. So I have dressed up as a fried egg when I was pregnant with Oscar, my middle one, and he was the yolk in the middle of my egg, and I had a big white sheet around me, and the maths department were English breakfast because the theme that year was Best of British, which is possibly a touchy subject at the moment. I've dressed as Barbie for it, I have dressed as Snow White, and I have also dressed as the Queen, so an eclectic mix there. I have been on the radio a few different times talking about different things, been on the TV. When I was a kid I was performing in a theatre group in Wales, and we used to kind of regularly be on the TV there. So I don't know whether they are fun facts, but they're just little quirks and things that possibly people don't know about me. But yeah, if you are interested in anything that I've talked about, then please do get in touch, and I would love to have a chat with you and give you a little bit more information about anything that you are interested in. But thank you so much for listening. I hope that I haven't bored you to death with a very kind of quick introduction to my my life in making a difference for others, and I hope that you will tune in for the next episode. So see you there. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Changemakers with Eleanor. I hope you're leaving as inspired as I am. If today's story has sparked something in you, remember it's never too late to start making a difference. Whether it's writing that book you've always dreamed of, stepping up in your community, or starting that campaign you're passionate about. If you enjoyed our time together, please consider giving us a rating and review on your favourite podcast platform, and share this episode with someone who could use a little inspiration. Your support helps us to reach more changemakers just like you. Join me, Eleanor, in the next episode for another deep dive into the stories of those who dare to dream big. Until then, be your greatest. See you next time.